Before coming to Denison, I had a fairly accurate perception of who I was. A Mexican American born in a predominantly Latino community with a strange asphyxiation to indie rock music and fashion. I was the same person at home as I was in school or out on the streets. And the only time I had to think about my sense of self was when filling out application forms or being aware of social and political issues, such as immigration and student walkouts. I never had a fixed distinction of myself. Then I came here, and for the first 2 months, nothing really changed. It was after those 2 months where I began to notice that my ethnicity was becoming predominant in everything that I did, inside and outside the classroom. It was a horrible feeling. Here I was trying to make the best of a great opportunity, only to realize that everything that I was doing was facing the harsh realities of being both colored and disadvantaged. My school looked at me as an investment to improve the diversity on campus, when in reality, I was just a number. So I did two things. One, work with what I had, and two, figure out how I was gonna create my own success despite my limited resources. And for the first 3.5 years, I learned much more about myself and how I interacted around different people through my conversations with classmates, staff, faculty, and my closest friends. But somewhere along the way, I noticed that my sense of identity was beginning to change. And I also realized that my identity was morphing into two different entities. My identity here at Denison is the same as any other minority who is currently facing the same situations I'm going through at different universities all across the United States. But back home, I'm the youngest son of parents of immigrants who came to the United States in order to seek a better life for the young ones. A few years later, I started to have a turning point in my life where I began to realize that my definition of identity was beginning to transform through the conversations I was having with different people. And it was one of these conversations that changed my life forever. It was a warm, sunny November afternoon, and I had just got done with a hike with a close friend of mine who happened to be a Denison alum. He was taking me back home, and during the car ride back home, he told me how he got to where he was at that point in time. He told me about this life-threatening illness that he had, which made him change his perspective on life. And in the process, he dropped everything that he had and moved to one of the most expensive cities in the United States in order to pursue his dreams of acting and dancing. And years later, he found success as a successful entrepreneur, merging his love of the arts with his love of changing the world. And he was able to live very comfortably despite high rent costs. This story resonated with me, not because of his success, but how he got to where he was. He had left a very close-knit family where he had a major role in how his younger siblings were being raised. And he also left a very lucrative job out of college, which when people found out that he was leaving, people thought he was crazy because he was wasting an incredible opportunity that so many others would have wanted in his place. And it was that conversation that made me think about my idea of identity as not being linear, not being going from point A to point B, but that in itself identity is abstract. Every day it changes, and every day it morphs into something different than what we had initially before. And that our identity isn't predetermined by how we grew up or how we currently are right now, but in the actions that we face every day. And it was baffling to me because it was a kind of thinking that I had not been used to before. Through this conversation, I took three main points away. The first main point was to go against traditional notions of thought. These traditional notions of thought can stem from constructed ideologies, traditions, customs, things that we have been brought up to believe in, that we were born into. Many of these constructed ideologies, traditional notions of thought, have, in some point in our lives, been a barrier in for us trying to seek out our own happiness and to find out who we really are. These small acts of rebellion is essential in order to finding out what makes you comfortable, and what makes you unique. And to give you an example of these small acts of rebellion, just being in this auditorium in itself is an act of rebellion. Because at some point in many of our lives, someone or something has told us that coming to a place such as Denison may not be the best idea in the world. Why engross yourself in so much debt? And why spend so much on tuition every year when you could go to a similar place for more than half the cost? Or not even go to college at all and start working. But for some of us here, many of us have found Denison to be an enriching place where we can grow and to learn more about ourselves, and through different ideas that we may have not thought of before. The second main idea that I got was to trust more within ourselves and in our actions when facing adversity. And a lot of this just stems from self-confidence alone. Personally, I'm not the most self-confident person in the world, but I think we sell ourselves short whenever we are trying to overcome a certain challenge in our lives. And I also realize that we have every right to be happy, to be successful, and to find balance in our own lives as much as the person next to us or the person that we idolize the most. It's a right that we all have in this world, and that we have the right to find balance in our own lives and to find peace within ourselves. And the third point, which I believe is the most important point, is that all of us in some way are seeking to find our own identity, our own sense of self, and that most of us may have not found that aha moment, that self-defining moment that encapsulates everything in who we are. And it's important because it gives you a sense of comfort, a sense of security that someone else may have not figured themselves out. And that in the society that we are living in today, in this society that demands perfection, it's important for us to step back and to realize that let our experiences run its course, and to realize that we're only human, that we're not expected to achieve certain actions or to achieve certain points in our lives at a certain point in time. Personally, this concept of identity is itself a journey that does not have a certain time period. It is a journey that allows us to see who we really are and to figure out what makes us tick, but also what makes us valuable in society. Personally, my own concept of identity is not trying to figure out how comfortable I am, but how would I be in the future? Will I look at myself in the mirror and be happy with who I am 20 years down the line? Will I be comfortable in my own skin? Will I find love and wealth and success if I'm following this certain path? One of the main ideas and one of the main themes that I started to realize close to being a graduating senior, to being an alum at Denison University, is that no one stays the same forever. And that we may not be the same person that we are 10 or 20 years down the line. I may not know who I am, but I'm excited to find out. Thank you.